I've heard you say that the biggest problem in crypto is identity. And I don't know if you still hold by like that's one of the biggest problems or if that's just a big problem, but why is identity a problem in crypto? And I'm asking because, at Unstoppable, we're thinking about Web3 identity really critically. And so I'm curious as to how you're thinking through that and why you think that needs to be solved.
I do think that identity is the biggest unsolved problem today in crypto. It's been the holy grail for a very, very long time. I mean, people were talking about this back in 2017, 2016, about the idea of how to create and solve identity on chain. I think why is it so hard? The reality is today, when you interact with anything on chain, you are an address. And it's very hard to make you anything more than an address. There's some applications that try to get more high dimensional data on who you are, such as looking at have you interacted with governance, have you interacted with this protocol, maybe you're eligible for an airdrop if you did this, you did that. But it's very low dimensional data. We don't know very much about you, and we can't make good differentiation about you. So there are a lot of applications that are gated on having some robust notion of identity in order for those applications to work. So one obvious example is credit. It is impossible to have a notion of credit, meaning you're able to borrow something without putting up collateral. There's no way to come up with a concept of credit without having a notion of identity. I have to know who you are, and I have to know that if in the case of a default, that something bad happens to you that gives you a disincentive to default. But if you want to do credit without identity, then you're just an address. And if your address goes in the red and you decide that like, hey, it doesn't make sense for me to pay back the loan, you can just walk away, shed the address and go start a new one. Like, what's going to stop you? How can anyone even tell who you were when you kind of walk away from your identity? In the real world, we have the concept of bankruptcy. Even if you take out credit and you can't pay it back, then you have to declare bankruptcy. There's a cost associated with it. There's a disincentive to do it. It's bad for you. You don't want to declare bankruptcy, right? You'd rather pay back your debts if you can. We don't have a concept of bankruptcy in crypto. Bankruptcy is just, you go underwater on your loan, you walk away, start a new address, and it's done, right? You start a new pseudonym, get a new NFT, PFP, and then you're off to the races. So that concept has to change in order for us to have some of these more robust concepts like identity. And there are many more things like this that require a notion of identity in order for them to work. Most of the world, I was chatting with somebody about this a little while back. It's kind of crazy. Most of the world operates on credit. Like you go into you land in a new city, and you go into the the local enterprise or the local hertz, and you pay $100 to drive off the lot a $10,000 or now even more, like $20,000 car. You're paying $100 a day to have with you completely in your ownership a $20,000 giant complex piece of metal, right? How does that work? It works because of credit. It works because the world knows that we can trust you. And an enormous amount of economic activity is predicated on that concept. But it is completely inaccessible to us in crypto. And I think that will eventually change. Now, it plays into other things like, gaming. Obviously, that you need a more robust notion of identity for a lot of stuff in gaming. Marketing, being able to market to people, being able to understand who they are and how valuable they are as customers. If you're a DeFi protocol and you can't tell, am I interacting with a Sybil attack, somebody who's trying to farm my airdrop? Am I dealing with a hedge fund, or am I dealing with a random Joe Schmo who I really want to get in the door? I really want him or her to start trading on my platform. If you can't tell the difference between those three, then how on earth are you going to do what FTX does?
Yeah.
FTX tries to find retail. They try to figure out who's retail and they bring them onto the platform. And then other folks who are traders, I'm not going to pay you anything if you're just like a trading firm. You have to come and pay me because you want my flow. You want to get access to the retail traders on my platform. If you're in DeFi, you can't do that. You have no idea who your users are, and so you can't really market. You can't really build a strategy of how to develop your margin and attract high value customers because you don't know who your customers are. That has to change for DeFi to become competitive with CeFi.
You're listening to the Unstoppable Podcast, the go-to place for everyone to learn about the latest innovations in Web3, NFTs, and the decentralized web. Welcome to the metaverse.